I launched in '83, and I was still working then, but I was in the fortunate position to be able to take the summers off. So I made long cruises from '83 to '90. Crossed the Atlantic a couple of times, went down to the Caribbean for the summer, circumnavigated Newfoundland, things like that. And then in '90 I took a leave of absence. I'd had a tough time with a job at the lab that took 4 years, and I decided to go to the Pacific for the first time. And I sailed through the Panama Canal. My wife, Edith, was going to fly to Tahiti to meet me. As usual, when we got to the Caribbean, the crew jumped ship, which is very common for the crew to jump ship. And my wife was able to get a friend, a mutual friend of ours, to fly down to Panama and sail with me to Tahiti. My daughter flew down with a friend, and we cruised in the French Polynesia Islands for a few weeks. And then my wife flew home, and unfortunately, when I spoke to her on the phone, she'd contracted cancer. And so I left the boat on the hard. We had arranged to meet originally in Uruguay, but that was all cancelled. And unfortunately, she passed away in about a year. And I flew back with a couple of young men, one of whom was on the lam from the Massachusetts State Police, it turned out. And we sailed the boat around Cape Horn and back in time for my daughter's graduation that summer. And then I worked part-time for a couple more years to get a few jobs out of the way, which I was fairly familiar with at the lab. And then in '95 I retired at the age of 63, and I've spent about 2/3 of my retirement on the boat sailing. I've circumnavigated twice, once east to west and once west to east, and I've been down to both the Arctic and the Antarctic about 3 times each. In 2009 I sailed through the Northwest Passage to Alaska and then back home via the Panama Canal. That was my 5th trip through the Panama Canal. I've been to the South Seas a few times, the Baltic. I think I've been around Cape Horn 4 times actually. Once the difficult way, from east to west, the rest with the easy way, downwind from west to east. And this trip, which I think might well be my last long trip, is just basically a navigation of the Atlantic Ocean clockwise from Long Island to Canada, Iceland, Faroes, Scotland and Ireland, where you join the boat, and then Portugal. I'll fly home in a few days for a couple of weeks, and then I'll fly back and carry on to Madeira and the Canaries, down to the Cape Verdes, Brazil, along the coast of South America to the Caribbean, and then home via Bermuda.
Wow.